Let's now review the concept of unity, which is another principle of design. The easiest way to understand unity is by taking a look at this one circle. This is clearly one element. It definitely represents unity. But things start getting much more interesting when that element is divided into multiple pieces. Like this element, which is the same circle, but now it's divided into two pieces. The concept of unity means that you can have multiple elements that relate to each other with space or color or any other element of design and still make it feel like they are one, or at least one composition, like this one. In this other more dramatic example, we have these two elements that are very far from each other, and they're starting to feel like they are not united. However, there are certain visual elements that are helping us still think of this element as a single unit by virtually drawing lines that attach these two elements together. Let me make that more evident to you by using the pen tool in Expression Design and by drawing a line from here to here. And let me make that line a little thicker so you can actually see it. 3 pixels might be enough, and let's make it black. So you can see that line represents the virtual connection that these two elements have. So even though these two halves of the circle were really separate from each other, they're still forming a unity. Now what happens when you get these two elements in a even more strange composition? Let's rotate this one over here and put it somewhere there. Well, that really starts feeling like two totally separate elements. But notice that you can still compose them and make them feel like they're working together by adding certain axes of composition. If I go to my pen tool and I draw a line, let's remove the fill for that element. And let's make it show up as a line, 3 points. This line over here is connecting these two elements. And it's not just that it's connecting them, it's also finding this empty space, this negative space that we have here, which is making us feel that these two circles are actually part of a larger composition. I could draw a rectangle in this area. And you will start feeling how these elements, even though they are completely separate, now they belong to a single composition. Right now, we're making those elements visible just so we can talk about them. But if I delete them, I'm sure that now you can see that these two elements, even though they are separated, they can still have some common axes that make them look like a single unit. Another example of unity can be demonstrated here. Here we have the Fabricam logo, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Ctrl-Shift-G to ungroup all those elements. And now we're going to start playing a little bit with each of these letters, and notice that I'm going to rotate them a little bit, move them up or down, just playing a little bit crazy here and moving these elements all over the place, doing all kind of wacky stuff. Even though all these elements now have different rotations, different positions, and they are not aligned to each other, they still feel like a single element. They're still united in a composition. Coming back to our circle, let's do something similar like we just did with the Fabricam logo. I can just rotate one of these pieces, and again, even though it's rotated, completely different rotation, these two elements still act as a single unit. I could even make it more dramatic. These two elements are still working as a single unit. In this other example, I have a collection of elements. All have different sizes, positions, etc. Still, they create unity, not only because they are touching each other, but also because of the negative space in between them. you can kind of read here visually that this is a circle or a circular composition. Now in this case I have a lot of elements, but I could have much less elements. I'll just start deleting a few of them, and you will notice how the general feel of that composition is not lost. You can still identify those elements as working together with each other. There's unity between these elements.